In this interview, I talked to Roxanne from Finance Rocks. She's new to the SEO world, but she's been doing YouTube for a little while, and she did keyword research using the keyword golden ratio to create videos for YouTube as well as blog posts. So she's done keyword research in TubeBuddy, and she also used keywords everywhere, including the keyword golden ratio. So we go over some questions that she has, which are fairly common. A lot of people have similar questions. So again, she's new to SEO and new to the keyword golden ratio and keyword research in general. So we really get to sort of peel back some of the layers here and dig into some details. We actually share her spreadsheet of keywords and that sort of thing. And hopefully soon, in the next couple months, we'll be able to get an update here from Roxanne and find out if these keywords worked out for her and if she got traction and just how things went. If you haven't checked out her other interview on my channel, you should definitely check that out. There's a link in the description. And of course, have a look at her channel, Finance Rocks, and her blog. Same name, Finance Rocks. Let's get to the interview. Hey, Roxanne, how's it going today?
Good. How are you, Doug?
Doing great and looking forward to catching up with you. It's been a little while. And for the people that don't know you, who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, I am the Finance Rocks, ROX, short for Roxanne. I am a blogger, YouTuber, personal finance coach. I do content around budgeting and paying off debt, emergency funds, all those fun finance things that everybody loves, right?
People are into that stuff these days. And how'd you get started? And we did another longer interview, so you don't have to give the full breakdown. But yeah, maybe just a couple minutes how you got into this space.
Yeah, well, I've always been interested in personal finance since I was a little kid and had three piggy banks. And I got my degree in accounting and yeah, worked in the industry for a while and I really enjoy talking about money, so that is a part of it too, but ultimately trying to help people, that kind of struggle with money. I like to do like entry level personal finance. So,
Very cool. And what's the latest over on the YouTube side? I know as a YouTuber myself, sometimes it's a bit of a grind, and you do videos, and people tend to get burned out here and there. Which I didn't prep you on any of these questions I was going to ask, but how's it going on the YouTube side?
yeah, good. Yeah, the long slog of, trying to kind of get established, working on learning editing and SEO, which I appreciate you taking my questions today. Yeah, it's been good. I've been wanting to do more bullet journal style videos. I really want to try to make finance more visual for people. I think it being abstract is one of the big barriers, to people kind of understanding and getting into it. So, doing a big video right now that's been taking a lot of time. Basically, a 2021 bullet journal setup video translating all of my spreadsheets into a paper planner so that way, and it's fun too. I've been enjoying like the crafting component and drawing component of it as well.
It's pretty fun. Yeah, I got into some of the bullet journaling and journaling YouTube stuff a couple years ago. They're really fun to watch, and I never really got into like a strict bullet journal setup, but more some of the productivity and just tracking and revisiting stuff over and over again to make sure you stay on track. So those are pretty cool. Bit huge space too.
Yeah, yeah. I think probably for a reason, right? They're popular because they're, like you said, they're fun to watch and you get kind of productivity tips along the way too.
Yeah. Or if you do it like me, you just watch the videos and don't actually do the work behind it, and you can enjoy and feel like maybe you did something productive. So
Yeah.
that's what I did. Anyway, today we're going to cover a few things. So we're going to answer and ask, well, you're going to ask some questions on the SEO side and keyword golden ratio related. So it's kind of cool to see, you know, people outside the SEO and affiliate marketing space using the keyword golden ratio. And you've gone a step further because one of your primary focuses is around YouTube. So you're going to be using the KGR with YouTube and the accompanying blog. So it all kind of works together. And I'll just turn it over to you and let you ask some questions on KGR and SEO.
Sounds good. Yeah, thanks. One of my first questions was, are the keyword phrases that I put into my spreadsheet, are they too long? You know, am I going too into detail? So, one example would be, how to write a professional resume in 2021. So just to get your feedback on that.
Long is usually very specific and detailed, and someone's looking for something very specific. So generally, those are good. Those are going to be really long tail. You'll often find, and I'm sure you did in your research, that the search volumes for longer phrases is less. Just that is the long tail. Like by definition, it's more obscure stuff. It is lower search volume. The good part is because it's so specific, if someone actually types in something that detailed, they probably want the content that you have written or created, whether it's video or a blog post. The one sort of cautionary thing to add is you mentioned the year, and for the people that are listening, and you're not going to be able to see any of the spreadsheet action that we're going to do for the full video and the full interview. Basically, when you put a year into the keyword, it does add the recency, and it's great as you are maybe at the tail end of the previous year, or of course when you're in the current year that is listed there. But as soon as you're maybe like the tail end of the year, let's say, back in November, I don't really want to, figure out how to do something that is soon going to be out of date. Now, the good part is writing a resume. Hopefully, that's not going to change too much from year to year at all. So you could really just go through and manually update the title on your post, and then it would have the current year. I think there are plugins and or technical shortcuts that you can do where you literally put a variable in there for the title, and it will populate whatever the current year is. So depending on your technical solution on your website, there may be a way you could just do it. Fact is, if it's only, let's say there's 15 posts that have the year in there, that would take you a couple minutes to update each one. It's not really a big deal, and you can update it manually. So your overall question, are these phrases too long? Nope. Some of them are pretty long. Some of them are 7, 8 words. Some of those are articles or small words in there. That's totally fine. And I think it adds the level of specificity that you want in this kind of content. Another caution, aside from the year, is you may have some that are very similar. And I don't think I saw this in your list of questions, so I'll go ahead and just tell you what it is. There's keyword cannibalization, which is that a term you've come across in the past?
I'm familiar because if you have two videos the same, then or two blog posts the same, they essentially are fighting each other for a ranking. Is that?
Yep, they eat each other just like regular cannibals. So that's exactly right. I don't know how big of an impact it is on YouTube, and I should probably look at that because I have a lot of videos that literally go over the same topics, like probably 50 videos go over the same topics. So on your blog, it'll be more important because what ends up happening is you might have two posts on a similar topic, and then you might rank, say, position 8 and 9. So actually not bad. You're ranking in the top 10, but you're ranking 8 and 9 for those two posts. And it turns out if you would just delete one of those posts, there's a very high chance, a big likelihood that your remaining posts on that topic will move higher, and it'll rank like number 2. Maybe it'll go to number 1. But once you remove that confusion and Google knows, hey, this is the post, this is the URL on your site that covers that topic, it'll rank much higher. Sometimes you have to massage the content and maybe combine it. And there's some technical things that you need to do because sometimes you won't know that Google is going to do that. We don't know how Google's going to react to certain content. So I do, however, see some of the keywords, which I can give this specific example. So you have how to write a resume that will get you an interview and how to write a resume and stand out from the crowd. So those potentially would have extremely similar content, and it actually doesn't even make sense to write two different articles on that because the goal is, write a good resume that will get you attention in some capacity. So with that in mind, I'm going to throw another one in there that would be a little bit different so that we can compare and contrast a little bit. So the first two that I said, so how to write a resume that will get you an interview, and then the second is how to write a resume and stand out from the crowd, and the third one is how to write a resume for your first job, which I don't know if that's on your list, but I'll just make that one up for comparison purposes. So for the first two that I listed, those are basically the same searcher. So put yourself in the shoes of the searcher. It's basically the same person. The third one that I listed about a resume for your first job, that is something specific. They don't have any other professional experience. It's their first job. It's a different searcher. So if you look at a set of keywords and there's a couple of the keyword phrases that you can think about the searcher and realize, hey, it's the same person, the same content would work for that person and the other searcher, then just combine them together. Don't write the same piece of content twice. And then, of course, you have another search phrase that is completely different. It's a different searcher, different problems, and you can write the article in the proper context.
Okay. So I was wondering, kind of along the same lines of length for the keyword phrase, what about segmentation? Like I've noticed in YouTube particularly, it'll almost be like two keyword phrases combined. So an example might be increasing your income and then like a dash, how to ask for and receive raises and promotions. Should those be separate KGR searches as well, or would you do those as two different KGR searches and just assume when they're put together that it, would apply for both?
Good question. I see this a lot on YouTube, and I mean, you could find probably hundreds of examples that I've literally done as well. So I think when I step back, and this is what I recommend for SEO on blogs or for YouTube or whatever, at some point you should step back and think, what does the viewer want to see? What does the reader want to see? How can we get out of our heads on the SEO side? Because you can make kind of weird and stupid decisions if you are just trying to work the algorithm and figure out like, okay, how can I get the most views on this based on how I title it? So when I strip away all the BS and I think about the title and the content of a video, so we'll think about the video, I would just have a shorter title that is not clickbait. It's just literally what it's about. So that title that you described, the creator is trying to write a title that'll capture both of those search phrases. And most likely, I have zero testing. I haven't even tried this myself, but my hunch is if you just had the single title with the most important thing that you're trying to rank for and nothing else and just had a shorter title, I think that would probably rank better than trying to add other things on there.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And that's incongruence. Okay, incongruence, not incongruence. With what I've seen as far as blog posts now, with YouTube, you have your thumbnail. So maybe people are looking at that more than the title description of the So maybe you can kind of get away with it on YouTube having the two segments. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's exactly right. So one thing you can do is put in the title your primary thing that you're trying to rank for, the primary keyword, and then on the thumbnail you could have the other half in there, because the fact is those are the two most important things for click-through rate. So if you can, and the other part is if you just put the same words on the thumbnail and the title, it's redundant. They can read either one of them, so you may as well take advantage of that. Now the of course the image and the thumbnail, Google can't read the words on there, or at least to my knowledge, they're not trying to read the words. Google can read the words on there. YouTube can read the words on the images if they want to. But to my knowledge, that doesn't come into play for the SEO of YouTube.
Okay.
And a quick question for you. So on your videos that have ranked higher and or gotten more views, do they have shorter titles that are literally, I guess, the most basic and exactly what you're covering in the videos?
Yeah, they're long. The ones that I've done that have been most successful are my emergency fund videos. So, how to get started building an emergency fund, I think is my most popular one.
Okay, that makes sense. It just to the point, and I know there's exceptions for every rule that you can come up with or guidance. You could find examples to disprove it really easily. But I would say when I think about some of the great videos that seem to go viral, they're short titles that are descriptive, and there's no clickbait, there's no like, trickery going on. It's just
Sure.
straightforward. So, all right, what's next?
Great, thanks. What do you recommend around bad grammar and spelling? If enough people are searching for incorrect keywords, would you just kind of go along with it, or would you do the corrected version of that KGR term?
What? Just curious. What's your hunch? What do you think?
I'm not sure. Because I went back and forth on it. I was like, well, I don't want to, look like I don't know grammar. There's that little like pride component of it. But also, if you rank, you do all in title with the exact thing that you're entering. So maybe Google would be more likely to serve it up with the bad grammar in it. I'm not sure.
Okay. So you should fix the grammar and any misspellings or any kind of things like that. So a couple reasons. Number one, like you said, if you don't want to intentionally make a mistake. So unfortunately, I mean, we make mistakes. So you're going to have, or I have incorrect grammar all the time. Especially when I'm speaking, that's even worse. If you've ever looked at a transcript of what you actually said, there's all these false starts and fragments and stuff. But writing, I fuck up too. So the point is, fix what you can, because that's the right thing to do. As far as the SEO perspective, Google and YouTube know when something's misspelled, and they will give you the right term. So I don't know, I can't remember if it's like this on YouTube, but of course, if you go to Google and you type something in and you misspell it, Google will say, oh, did you mean this? We're showing you results for the thing that you probably meant anyway. So they
Okay.
correct it already. There was a time in the past, I think maybe even before I got into SEO, where you could rank for a misspelled word and it would actually be beneficial. But at this point, Google knows what you're trying to type in. Even if you fat finger it and misspell it in a way that's not like a actual misspelling, but it's just extra letters got in there, or your finger was in the wrong spot, or you're typing on your phone, like they know the weird misspellings that you could accidentally come up with and figure it out. So spell stuff
Thank
right.
thank God. Pretty funny. I totally botched asking that question anyway, so that's a little funny. Bad grammar and spelling and speaking. So this one is a little bit kind of maybe higher level. At what point do you stop researching the blog post title or the YouTube video title and just get started making it. I think I might be spending too much time in planning mode and not enough time in execution mode, as evidenced by the fact that the section of spreadsheet that we're looking at is a very small portion of my actual big SEO spreadsheet. And this is only topics on career, resume, pay increases, and promotions. And it was about 227 rows.
So yeah, you spend too much time, but
I just needed to hear it. So thank
sure.
you.
And people vary on how they like to work, but I'll give you my reasoning here. And basically, you have more keywords than you're going to be able to use for a long time. Videos take a long time, so if you actually do videos on these, I mean, it'll take you a year to get through just a few of them anyway. And if you're writing blog posts to accompany them, which totally makes sense, it maybe would take a little bit longer. Now, that's not to say, I mean, you didn't waste time here. Like, all this is useful, and you have a good list. And basically, even if you have 200 some odd in this list, chances are, some of them are kind of duplicates. Like we talked about the keyword of cannibalization. Some of them may not fit the area that you're trying to like focus on in a certain phase of the year, what you're trying to do in the content. So you can probably consolidate, and maybe you'll end up with like 50 really good keywords, which is great. I mean, that'll keep you busy for a really long time also. So I think you can probably distill this list down. And I know you have a few different categories too, so you could distill those down into the ones that you really want to focus on, and spend the extra time on creating the best content in those given topics. The other reason why it's good to not over research, especially since you are using a new SEO technique that you haven't used before, you don't have any data behind how this is going to work for you. So let's say you spend 2 months accumulating a lot of keywords. Maybe you heard someone say, you should find, 300 keywords before you get started, just to make sure you have enough topics and blah, blah, blah. And if you spend all that time finding keywords, let's say you made a little mistake in your technique, or maybe you're finding keywords that don't really rank that well for you, and you've spent all this time finding keywords that don't rank that well. So usually the advice I give people is like, find 10, 20, maybe 50 good keywords to get started on, start creating that content. You'll have data based on your output, how your audience is reacting to it, how Google is ranking it, how YouTube's ranking it. And then you can adjust if you need to. And you could transfer that to anything you want to do. I don't recommend people work completely on a full phase and then move on to the next phase. In the software world and project management world, it's the waterfall project. Did you run into that in your corporate
No.
gig? All right. So for software, you have a requirements phase. So you kind of plan, you figure out from a business perspective, what does the software need to do? And then you would go talk to the engineers and say, okay, from a system perspective, how do we meet those business goals? And then you have all these requirements. Then you develop the software, which could take a long time. Then you test the software to make sure it works. And in the traditional waterfall, you do all the business requirements first, then you do the technical or system requirements, then you develop it, and then you test it afterwards. What usually happens is each step of the way, the solution gets further away from what the business people actually need. So when it comes around to testing and user testing, the users, the business people that made those initial requirements, usually say, well, this is not what we meant at all, and we need to redo it. So they have to go back and redo all of those several phases. Where if they just focused on, this is like agile project management, basically. So you end up iterating multiple times and do little pieces so that everyone's on the same page, or they're more likely to be on the same page. All of the project management solutions and techniques have flaws, But for certain things like finding keywords, you're doing new research, you need to create more videos. It's really good to find a handful of keywords, start producing the videos, see how the audience reacts. Maybe you need to revisit how you're doing your research. So that's the main reason why I encourage people to not spend too much time researching, and execution will get you a lot more information.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that makes sense. You plus then you get practice and you don't end up in a place like you said where the end product is not expected. So,
Yep. And as you go along, so to continue with the analogy, if you if you create the videos as you go, and maybe you can batch some and maybe find 5 keywords and then do some videos. If you were to find a big long list of keywords and then just start creating a bunch of videos, the iteration that you're able to do is sort of cut because you're not getting that feedback loop as quickly. You could adjust things and make sure that you do get feedback, but I've heard from a lot of YouTubers, and this is kind of the way I kind of followed along and then heard other people talk about it, where for a little while I just needed to publish videos, and then I wanted to get a little bit better with live video, so I would try to do live streams. And then I realized my lighting was terrible and I needed to fix the lighting. And then I realized the audio was bad too, so I needed to fix that. So each video or set of videos, I try to improve another little thing. So hopefully now people can hear and see me pretty well, and hopefully I speak a little bit better too. So you can improve one little thing at a time, but it's really hard to do all that at once. It's overwhelming if you're thinking I have to get all this right on the first video.
yeah, I bet that's a common mistake for new creators.
And it'll shut a lot of people down as well, just because there's too many things and it's overwhelming. So if you could just realize it's going to be garbage for a little while and like slowly
Mm.
improve, then you could fight through it. So
Yeah. This is a great segue into the next question. Do you filter KGR ratios to look at like the top 10 for that subject or for your spreadsheet in order to determine, what to do next? Using this as a kind of planning method for your content.
when you say filter, do you mean sort? And if so, what mechanism, or am I mixing up the question here?
Okay, so you use conditional formatting on your spreadsheet. So would you, look at all of the terms that turned up as green? Would you look at all those to try to determine what your next content will be? Or do you know what you're going to do ahead of time and then you're just looking for the best KGR term available?
Often I would look at the lowest search volume terms because those are usually the least competitive. So it's counterintuitive as well, because if you wanted to get the most views or the most searches, you would aim for the highest searches per month. And if you if you flip that over and you go for the less competitive stuff, then my reasoning was a lot of times you'll have a better chance of ranking faster. On the YouTube side, I don't know if it matters as much because the algorithm is a little different, and it sometimes favors like newer content. And you potentially, and I've seen, and maybe this happened with your video on the emergency funds, you were outranking and doing better than much bigger channels that were more established, more videos, more views, all those details. But your video was better than theirs, and it reacted from a viewer perspective. It got longer view times and it kept people on the platform. So a little different on the YouTube side. All that to say, there's no specific way. It's totally up to you. Some people like to use the KGR and sort it that way. So the lowest KGR indicates the lowest competition. So that's a valid way. You could look at the search volumes and say, I'm going to go after the highest search volumes because I want to try to maximize the amount of eyes or searches that are occurring on this term. Or the opposite, if you're like me and you wanted to zig when everyone was zagging and go after the lower competition, that's valid too. So there's no right or wrong way to do that.
Okay. Yeah, so just to make sure that I'm following you, you said it's totally fine. I mean, I guess this is kind of obvious. It's totally fine to filter and determine that the next video that you're going to do is the most advantageous KGR video that's on your spreadsheet. Or picking a section like, oh, if I'm going to do a career video and then going through and, looking through the KGR terms. So,
Yes. And on that point, it's a good idea, both probably from a video perspective and from a blogging perspective, if you stick in a kind of a topic zone. So, not just career, but maybe your next 5 pieces of content are resume related, especially for your regular subscribers. They're now thinking, oh, resume stuff. It all kind of ties together. As you publish another one, maybe it helps the other videos rank, and people, if they watch this one video on some aspect of resumes, they maybe would watch the other. You can create a playlist around it. From a blogging perspective, it also gives Google topical relevancy. You can internally link those posts together, which is good. And the whole package together is you have videos that are in a playlist, they're linked together in the descriptions, and then you could put and embed those videos on your blog post, and then the blog post can have a link, and of course the video is embedded. So all of it can work together to help Google understand this this is the exact topic. The title on the video is this, the title of the blog post is related, all the content's related. Google will understand that.
okay, that's really interesting. So the emergency fund videos that I did that have done the best on my channel, I did it exactly like you just said. I picked 5 video title descriptions. I made them one after another. I slammed them in a playlist. So, and I've never heard the term topical relevancy before. And so it makes sense that, you're really telling YouTube, this is what my content is about. I am an expert in this. You can see I can create 5 different videos. So therefore, I'm reliable. So you think Google does, and I know that the algorithms are private and sacred, right? But you think Google kind of does the same thing where that gives them the same kind of information if you create them back to back to back, since there's no playlist essentially on Google.
I don't think the timing matters as much. I think it's more just having that content. So, for example, if I audit someone's site and I see they have one article that is ranking maybe okay, maybe not even ranking that well, but they want it to rank well, and it's the only article on their site related to that topic, a great way to help boost the rankings is to publish, say, 5, or really you could publish a lot of them, but I just threw out 5, say 5 or 15 related posts kind of related to that topic. It could be directly related. Let's say it's questions about specifics of writing a resume, and all of those can link together internally on the website. And then each of those individual posts can also link to the sort of main post that the person was trying to rank for.
Okay, cool, interesting. This kind of goes back to like spreadsheet organization. Um, should I keep keywords and then the long keyword phrase titles in separate lists? So on my spreadsheet, I separated it into a few different sections, like I mentioned, career, resume, pay increases, and promotions. And then I did the KGR on those terms as well, just because I figured, they might have slightly different rankings. If career is a better keyword in general than promotion, then that can help me determine what video to do next, since I have 200 options on the spreadsheet. Um, so should that be do you keep those in a separate list? Do you just mix them in? How does that factor into your spreadsheet?
I think I probably have, you know what, I've done it different ways at different times. So this is totally a personal preference. And if it's easier for you to think about it in separate sheets, that would be fine. I would say and you're basically talking like terms that have a huge search volume that is over 250, maybe even, tens of thousands. And I think you could change it if you want. Let me say that again. I think if you want to put it into a different sheet and just have sort of a tight list of a handful of keywords, that would totally be fine. If you wanted to mix them in, that would be fine too. You potentially, just from a spreadsheet organization standpoint, you maybe could flag the certain rows that have those big terms and then filter those in and out depending on what you want to do. Of course, you could filter it out based on the search volumes, and then that would do the same thing, but you could create a flag column and just say, this is long tail keywords and these are not long tail keywords.
Okay, yeah. I guess I was even curious if you even did that. If since I know you go after the long tail keywords, I was wondering then, would you even search for or would you even calculate the KGR for the term career? So thank you. That's exactly what I was going for.
Yeah, and I don't, just because the search volumes are so high, the number of all in title results isn't super relevant. So you might be able to find some low all in title values, but when it comes down to it, if you actually Googled the term, you would find that it probably doesn't matter if it's in the title, because bigger sites are ranking for those large terms.
Okay. So I just recently did create an Etsy shop and I put some digital downloads on there. And looking in Etsy, it looks like keyword stuffing is a really big trend there. Like a digital download might say wall art, printable, like have all these like comma, 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 comma keywords shoved in there. And so I was going to ask, I've noticed that a little bit on YouTube, kind of the same question of the segments, if there's two portions in the same title. So kind of, I think you already answered this question. You said, what does the reader want to see or what does the watcher want to see? So I'm guessing you would say kind of the same thing. You don't really need to stuff that one additional keyword into your titles, right?
Right. I think you can. And again, I've done that. And I think it could be more helpful to put some copywriting flair into it. So, one video I recently did, it was around Amazon affiliate marketing. So, that's kind of the main keyword. But I searched for that term in YouTube, and I saw that a lot of the other YouTubers that were ranking well had step by step in there. I'm probably not trying to rank for Amazon affiliate marketing step by step. Probably people are not searching for that. But from a copywriting perspective, that's what people want to see, and it seems to be reacting well. So I would search for the term and see how other people are titling it, and you'll get a wide range. You will also see people that did exactly what I described, where they searched for the term, they saw what was working, and then they sort of pieced together pieces from other people's stuff and just try to copy the title. Some people will actually copy the titles of videos or blog posts, and on the YouTube side, they'll copy the thumbnail too, like the style of the thumbnail. So if you go and search, you'll see people are reverse engineering or trying to figure it out. The whole point being, go search for it, and you should do this both on YouTube and Google before you create the piece of content. Search for the term, see what's ranking. I think it'll give you an idea for the content that you should include. It'll give you an idea about thumbnails. It'll give you an idea for the actual title and if there's anything else you could put on there. And on YouTube, I would encourage people, do the video anyway. Like, even if you're not sure if it'll rank and you see it's really competitive, publish it anyway. It might rank in the long term, and it may take a little while and then it'll blow up. On the blog side, if you see it's super competitive and there's all these big financial sites that are already ranking pretty well, there's a decent chance that you're not going to be able to outrank them. And on YouTube, small creators can still compete. I created a video, it was kind of a throwaway video about a year ago. It only took me a few minutes, no script. It took me like 3 minutes to edit. And then after a few months, it started ranking in search really high, has a very high click through rate too, like in the double digit range. And it is getting more views than anything else. It's not even related to the topics that I usually cover. It's very strange, but it just continues to get more. And I realize like how powerful the search traffic on the YouTube side is, because I mean the fact is I built most of my channel not off of search. It was through just publishing a lot of videos and trying really hard, but I wasn't getting new viewers through ranking in search on YouTube.
I've been noticing that lately. It seems like Google search, I, I, I just haven't been able to find things that match as well as I feel like I used to be able to find things on Google. And, I wonder if people are figuring out the algorithm essentially, or, their keyword stuffing like on recipes that you search. And then there's like a, full blog post and then the little tiny recipe at the end where they're, you know, so I've been wondering about that. Like, at some point, are people going to have to start looking other than at places other than Google to diversify their content because it's just not as good of a search engine anymore?
Yeah, I don't know exactly. I mean, Google is always updating the algorithm. I think like the actual stat is they update it daily and like small little tweaks. And then a few times a year, there's a big algorithm update. So I know, yeah, from a recipe perspective, I hope they change it up. And one thing I hate with recipes is they have all the pop-ups. So there's like a video playing, there's another video playing, things are scooting around on the page, and then there's like 1,000 word article about how someone loves like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and you're trying to get like a lasagna recipe or something.
Yeah.
And it's just, you don't care about that stuff. You just want to get the recipe. So hopefully Google will kill those in the rankings, so those ads will go away. But I
Yeah.
mean, I guess they got to make money somehow, but I think there's other ways.
Sure. And it's just that like I was searching peanut butter and jelly wings instant pot the other day. And like the first few results, I was like, why did this come up? And then I finally found one that was like roughly similar. I was just thinking about how it just doesn't seem as good as it used to, the how it would serve up results.
Yeah, there's definitely, yeah, it's strange. Well, it's marketers and SEO people like me that screw it up for everybody,
Well,
I
thanks a lot, Doug.
guess. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, it's, on one hand, like, yeah, you should be rewarded if you're creating good content, and that's, ultimately what they're trying to do. But it has been frustrating me lately. I was like, Google, what the heck? But, well, I think that's all the questions that I had for you, unless you wanted to do any specific examples from the spreadsheet.
Okay, yeah, and let's hop over to the spreadsheet and just kind of talk through it a little bit here. So I know, well, yeah, do you want to just describe kind of what was going on? I'm over here and we're looking at the potential titles, and I know you're looking to do videos as well. So you have some of the TubeBuddy data here. So tell us what's going on.
Yeah, so I wanted to include both the TubeBuddy score. It's just an add-on for YouTube if people are unfamiliar with it, but it's an SEO tool. It gives you a ranking, poor, fair, good, very good, or excellent, and then a numeric score as well, kind of a score out of 100. Not kind of, exactly, score out of 100. So I wanted to include both just because, like you mentioned, I'm still pretty new to trying to figure out the SEO. I didn't want to be way off base on either the TubeBuddy or like the KGR term. So I just typed them both into the spreadsheet. I have a column for keywords, And that's, like I mentioned before, me trying to categorize my different topics. So in this particular spreadsheet, career, resume, pay increases, and promotions. I included a subcategory column. So that's just for my use, trying to figure out kind of to organize the spreadsheet a little better. So I have career as the keyword and the subcategory of interview. And then, the particular keyword phrase would be job interview preparation checklist, for example. So that's how I broke it down. Hopefully, I did the KGR right. I gave up on trying to use the Google ad result or I think, what is it called? The section in Google Analytics where you can go in and like see the volume for the monthly search volume for the ad.
Yeah, like keywords everywhere. Is that what
Yeah,
you
so
think?
I stopped using the Google version and started using keywords everywhere. So
Oh, got it.
yeah, hopefully I pulled that in correctly. So I got the Google search results. I have had some inconsistency with the search result count when I'm Googling it. It'll be like 82 million results. Yesterday and the previous few days, it seemed more accurate. So I kind of overrode the ones that I had. Yeah. And then, like you mentioned, I did include a field for all in title just so that I didn't have to type it in each time. So a formula that does all in title, colon, and then brings in the description that I had typed in from the description field.
Got it. Okay, cool. And I think, yeah, you spent a lot of time searching for all these. And like we talked about, I do see some that are, you know, very similar. And maybe you could tease out something specific. And I know some of these are pretty long, like search phrases as they are. But sometimes if you search for it, look at some of the results, and look at the people also asked or some kind of related questions. Those are really good keyword ideas as well. So even if you don't use them as a keyword by themselves, you can still maybe add an FAQ section on a piece of content. So, like how to get a promotion at work. Maybe there's some related questions that you can put at the end of that article, like how long should people wait between promotions, or when can I expect to get promoted, that sort of thing. And
Okay.
Google just tells you those FAQs right in there in the search results. So
Are you saying that people include an FAQ question on their blog post and then that's how they show up in that FAQ kind of drop down when you do a Google search?
people include FAQs in their blog post. Sometimes that's how they show up, but Google puts in whatever they want. So it
Okay.
does help to have a very clear question that's usually a H2 or H3 tag, some kind of subheading, and then have the answer underneath in a fairly concise way. Sometimes it's like a whole blog post that's on the topic too. So it just depends. I'm not an expert in that featured snippet and featured answer and question kind of areas on the results page. Some people spend a lot of time on it, but there are certain things that you can do to help, but I haven't spent the time. I've seen and heard about mixed results from maybe somebody spent a whole lot of time putting in the exact FAQ schema, and it takes a very long time, and then they didn't get much of a return on it.
Awesome. You said mixed results, talking about Google results. So that made me laugh. I should probably mention too that I did use Answer the Public to come up with a lot of these. So some of them are a little strange, and that's because they are based on the search terms.
Got it. Okay. Anything else notable in the spreadsheet here?
I don't think so.
All right. Cool. Any other questions you could think of?
No, no. Thank you for answering all of those questions. Yeah, really helpful.
You're welcome. Well, let us know when are you going to start publishing some stuff so we can get data and results back.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I definitely struggle coming up with a topic. I have so many ideas and then so many titles, it's hard for me to make them all. So this actually all started from a comment on my YouTube channel asking for tips on getting pay increases. She was going to ask for a raise. And so it's been a long time that I've been kind of procrastinating on this. But I mean, let's say a month. I should be able to do at least get some of these started in the next month. So thank you for the accountability question.
All right. Well, we could be specific too. So you're going to have one done in a month?
Yeah, probably because I'm finishing up my big bullet journal video now. So
Okay. Well, that sounds good. We'll check in a month. You should have at least one out there. So for the bullet journal one, are you scripting it out and everything where you're going to have a specific script and stick to it, or are you kind of loose with it? I haven't done that kind of a video, you know.
yeah. So I haven't actually done any SEO for it yet. And I don't even know if I'm going to do a voiceover. Some of them are just, music to, the person writing out, the title for each page, drawing out the sections. It is a money specific bullet journal. And it's interesting that you mentioned, how there's different, like step by step, there's different popular keyword groupings for different titles. One that I saw for bullet journaling was minimalist bullet journal, because people want something that's, straightforward, it's easy to do. So that's all I know about it so far. But yeah, I have like emergency fund planning page where it's the 5 different types of emergency funds I keep, and then I'll go back and fill out my estimation for each calculation, budget, and yeah. So I'm going to do the big video, and then I know this is something that you are a big advocate of, is kind of breaking it down into, individual pieces of content that are specific. So I'll probably go back and then do, just a budgeting one, use some of my video as B-roll in the new video, and then do, the proper voiceover, describe, how to fill it out, give tips on, how to do it yourself.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty fun. All
Yeah, I'm
right.
really excited.
Well, you'll have to share that with us whenever it comes out. And any other thoughts?
I don't think so. Yeah.
All right. Where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube, Finance Rocks, no space. It's Finance ROX, which is short for Roxanne, because I'm very clever. My blog is financerocks.com. I need to upgrade my theme, so it's not very good. I'll say that right now. But yeah. And then I'm on Instagram. That's my favorite. So Finance Rocks, no space. It's the same everywhere.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Doug.